Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned as always to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Good day, viewers and listeners. Welcome to Ministry of Education, Kaduna State, Radio, Television, e-learning. So our subject of discussion today is literature in English, and the topic is analytical literary terms and concept. Now, students, analytical literary terms and concepts on prose. That's what we are going to discuss today. You know, we have prose, we have drama, and then we have poetry. All of these genres have their own concept. And today we are going to discuss on prose concept. Analytical literary terms and concept refers to the several pieces of literary information which students of literature usually analyze or comment upon while undertaking literary appreciation. Of course, the analytical literary terms and concepts are: we have the subject matter, we have the plot, we have plot organization, we have tools for plot development, we have characters, and then we have types of characters. Now, students, before we go on, students that are often writing exams, most especially SS3 students that are writing WAEC and NECO, they need to understand these terms, because this literary appreciation used to come with these terms. They ask them, they want you to know the knowledge. You have to have the first-hand knowledge about what literature entails. And that's why we are more concerned about this. We are more concerned to analyze this concept. Then, out of it, we have subject matter. Students, you know, you are conversant with this aspect, but you need to know the in-depth of what subject matters is all about. Every work of art which is classified as prose must have a story that it tells, or a subject matter that it revolves around, which is the kernel of the work that is presented to the reader to interpret or decipher. What am I trying to say here? Right? Every work of art is being classified, as I've said earlier, and it must have a story. So if there's a story, when you want to give a story, that is what we call the subject matter. The subject matter is the embodiment of all what you are trying to discuss on. And then the story consists of those major events or incidents. What are those major events? It's just like you have given a book to analyze, but there are some major events that you need to know. There are these major events that will now give you the insight of what you want to know. For example, if you are reading a novel, it's not everything that is very important, but there are some important aspects in the storyline that you need to know, and that's why we talk about the events or incident in the work which help in facilitating a concise summary of the work of art. It is just like a summary of the work of art. That's what we always refer to subject matter. Then the plot. The plot is a work of prose that refers to the way and manner in which the event or incidents narrated in the work are arranged. That's to say, every literary work is arranged through the plot. You don't just mix up your plot if you want your work to be perfectly okay. If you don't want to confuse people once they are reading your work, that is why we say the plot is the arrangement of every work of art. There are two types of plot structures which a writer can use in the presentation of the story. The first type of plot structure is called the linear or chronological or organic plot structure. You either link it with linear plot or chronological plot or organic plot. All of these words are the same thing. They are the same thing. The plot of a story is the what of the story. The plot of the story is the what of the story. It is the storyline, the rendering of events in the story from the beginning to the end. A writer can choose to maximize the ordering of his storyline to achieve some special emotional or historical effect, as the case may be. A writer chooses some of this when it comes to plot, that he chooses to maximize the ordering, that is arranging his storyline so that he will achieve special emotional or historical effect, that he chooses what the plot should be. The plot consists basically of action, stimulus, and reactions, stroke response to actions. What am I saying is that the plot always consists the action, and this action that's the stimulus. When a plot is well arranged, the action of the plot will stimulate you to the aspect of which you want the terms to go by. It is progresses to the rising action, the conflict, the climax, the resolution. You know, in any plot, it is being arranged. One, it progresses to the rising action. That is when the action is starting. When you are writing, that's when you write a poem or a prose or a drama, you should arrange it. That's why we are talking about the linear, the rising and the rising action, the conflict. There will be conflict. We have the climax and the resolution. So if you are writing a text, you should have in mind that this thing is needed as when you are writing your work, your literary work. You should have it at the back of your mind that you should need that action must be there. There must be conflict. There must be climax, and a way out. That's the resolution. Then, as I was saying that, we have two types of plots. We have the linear, the chronological, or the organic plot. All is the same. In a narration with linear or chronological organic plot structure, the story commences from the beginning, and there is a gradual movement in chronological order to the end of the story being narrated. Gradual what? Gradual movement. There must be gradual movement from the time the story is being given. That's it. There's that movement from this stage to the other stage, until the end of the story. That is chronological plot. Thus, every work of art with a linear plot structure will have a beginning. Will have a beginning. They will have a middle and an end, which gives it form. It must have the beginning, it must have the middle, and it will have an end that will give you the form of your work. At the beginning, the reader gets to know some principal characters and the problems which need to be resolved. That is at the beginning of our linear plot or chronological plot. The readers will know some principal characters. Who are those characters? And the problem which need to be resolved. Then, in the middle, the storyline becomes both interesting and complicated. And an attempt is made to sustain the reader's interest with the relevant facts, while the ending provides the resolution of the problem. So, in the middle, sometimes the plot becomes so interested, and sometimes it becomes complicated. It depends on the writers. There are some writers at the middle, that is sometimes we call it at the climax of any literary work. You will be so eager. That's when the story became so interesting. And then sometimes it becomes so complicated. So that is the middle. Then towards the ending, it provides the resolution of the problem. If towards the ending, you know this is the problem. You know it was interesting and also complicated. It will now tell you that this is the resolution. This is how the ending is going to be. And that's why sometimes when you are reading a text, by the time you reach climax and then you are now descending, when you are getting to the end, that's why you understand the text very more. That's when you understand the text well. That's when the resolution has been concluded. The ending may not satisfy the readers. However, it will be such that it will be able to make the reader ruminate or meditate or reflect about life in its different facets. The the end may not be satisfied. You will not feel, maybe you will not be happy. How did this text ended? But it is important to know that it has the beginning, it has the middle, and it has the end. Then we have inorganic or episodic plots. In writing a work of art, the writer may decide to write in a non-chronological order. And I told you in chronological order, that is their arrangement, you follow the steps. You follow the steps one after the other in your writing. And that's why when it comes to the middle, it becomes so, the story becomes so interested. Now, in this one, It is non-chronological order. It is not arranged the way you want it to. It doesn't have the beginning, it doesn't have the middle or the end, but it is being arranged haphazardly. For instance, in many detective novels or short stories, the narration often starts when a crime has been committed. For those that are reading detective novels, you find out that the crime has already been committed. You don't even know the beginning. You just go into what maybe it has ended while you are just starting the reading. I'll give you an example about one of the texts of Professor Wale Soyinka, The Interpreters. When you read that text, it's so confusing. You don't know that is part of the non-chronological plot. That's the non-chronological, that's interpreters. Because when you are reading it, you think as if you have picked it from the middle. It is so confusing. But at the end, the message was passed across. As I said, for instance, detective novels or short stories, the narration often starts when a crime has been committed, which thereafter necessitates the involvement of a detective to solve. In such novel, the order of narration does not follow a chronological order or pattern. I've said it. It doesn't follow the chronological pattern. It doesn't follow the chronological pattern. There's no any order of chronological pattern. Then we have plot organization. We have exposition. This is the introductory stage when the major characters and events are exposed or presented to the reader. Exposition. It is the introductory stage when the major character and the event is presented in the reader. Then we have the complication. This is the stage when the events, situation, and occurrence in the work become more complicated. Now, look at exposition and look at complication. This is the introductory stage. And this one stage is when the event and the situation has an occurrence in the work become more complicated. That's complication. It becomes so complicated. And this complication goes when you go into the non-chronological plot. New characters and indecencies are introduced, which helps in making the storyline more complex. Making the storyline more complex. Then we have the climax. This is the stage when the greatest crisis or problem in the work occurs. It's just like a pyramid. Students, it's just like a pyramid or a triangle. So any event starts from the beginning. When it goes to the peak, it is the climax. That is why when it becomes so hotter. Students, let me digress a bit and tell you more. Some of you often watch these Nigerian films. So when it reaches to a climax, you'll be so eager. I want to see what is going to happen. That is the word. That is the crisis or a problem. Hey, let me see how they are going to kill him. It is the climax. And then we have the anticlimax. At this point in the narration of a story, the issues which have engendered a crisis are not as potent as before, and there is a lessening of heightening action. What am I trying to say here? It becomes so it reduces all the problem. It is not as hotter as we used to know in the climax. It begins to reduce. And I told you that it is just like a pyramid. Yes, a pyramid. That a triangular shape. So when it goes to the tip, that's the top, that's the climax. And when it's going down, it is what? This is the anticlimax. Then we have resolution. This is a stage when the different issues raised in the course of This is the stage when the different issues raised in the course of the narration are resolved. There must be a resolution. Different issues raised in your literary work is what being dissolved. Is being dissolved. Then we have tools for plot development. Tools for plot development. We have suspense. We have suspense. This entails the deliberate withholding of information by the writer in an attempt to heighten and sustain the reader's interest in the story. Suspense in any given literary work, that's you are putting under what? Under suspicious. You are so eager. You are so eager. In any literary work, when we come to suspense, you want to know the next action. But instead of knowing that next action, maybe the reader will just give you what? To think on your own. Pass your judgment. That's suspense. When you pass your judgment, this is to test your ability to know if you really understand what the text, the prose text entails. When you are kept under suspense, give you the enablement to enable you to read, to finish the text. In non-chronological order, if there's a mix-up and there's no suspense, you find that you become so lazy. Even me, if I'm reading a text that's not giving me that some of the information is not withholding, I'll just throw the text. But suspense information it makes the interest of the story. Information which is pertinent to the resolution of the conflict is not revealed by the writer, and this helps in making the plot structure more complex and mysterious. That is suspense. Foreshadowing or prefiguration. Foreshadowing or prefiguration. This occurs in a work of art when the writer presents certain events which predicts other events that will occur as the story develops. Usually, the first event is very minor and might not even be noticed by a reader. However, the minor event will serve as a clue that provides the inkling as to the reason why a more major event occurs. That's foreshadowing. Then we have digression. In developing the plot of a work of art, the writer might digress from the main story line by creating a story within a story. There are times that a writer will digress. Take your attention off from what he's trying to tell you from the text. He digresses. That's why I say he digresses from the main story. The main story. There are times, even us as teachers, when you are teaching, it reaches a point that sometimes we digress and then give a story that will link up with what you are trying to teach. Link up with what you want the learners to understand. So that is, we have digression, which is known as digression. In such an instance, the flashback technique through which the characters bring to the present event from the past become very effective. When you are digressing, you go back to flashback. A flashback is story that has been given or has been told. Then, when you are digressing, you go back to flashback. Then, we are going to discuss on what a character is all about. Every work of prose must have a character. Every work of prose must have a character or characters whose action or inactions and interaction helps in facilitating the development of the storyline. Character. Names must be mentioned. You cannot just write a story, a prose without having characters. Then how do you mention names? Names must be, and that's why I say the action or inaction and interaction helps in facilitating the development of storyline. It helps in facilitating to give us more understanding about any storyline. Names must be mentioned. Even though they are not names of human beings, it can be names of inanimate objects. It can be name of inanimate object. So names must be mentioned. They act out the events recounted by the author, and characters can represent human beings, inanimate objects, and animals. And animals, when you use animals in your write-up, yes, when you use animals in your write-up, it means you are trying to tell us that they are characters. When you use object, tables, or any other, they are all characters. So far, you are putting it together to the storyline. Then we have types of characters. We have hero, we have heroine, and protagonist. The protagonist of a story is also the central or the major character. He is the person around whom the storyline resolves. The protagonist is the main person in which the storyline is being resolved. He is being mentioned all the time. He's being mentioned. Whether you call it a protagonist or a hero is for a male character. Then a heroine is a female character. And you can use protagonist. So, he is the person around whom the storyline revolves. He or his or her interaction with others' character help the reader to have an understanding of what the story entails. We have the antagonist. This is the character whose actions are geared toward undermining the protagonist of the story. There is always the protagonist and antagonist. They are just what? The antagonist always undermine the protagonist, only criticize the antagonist. So the antagonist does the exact opposite of what the protagonist does most of the time. He / she embodies evil qualities. Antagonists have an evil intention. When you say this is A, he will say this is C. He's seen nothing good about the protagonist. Then we have eponymous character. This is a major character whose name is also the source of the title of a narrative. E.g., some people use this character for their word, for their book, to be the title of any narrative. E.g., The Text of Devil by Thomas Hardy. This text of Devil is a text. It's a text, but it is the title of the prose text. Then we have the flat character. The flat character is unreceptive to radical personality change, and it is relatively easy for the reader to predict or her action. That is the flat character. Then we have the last but not the least, that is the round character. The round character, who is also called the dynamic character, possesses the quality of unpredictability of an ability to change, to turn from evil to good, and vice versa. That's the round character. He's found everywhere. The description of a round character is usually very detailed and in-depth in an attempt by the writer to present a full picture of his or her personality. That is a round character. He is found everywhere. Students, this lesson is going to be continued because we are going to talk about characterization, point in view, and others. So for now, if for this teaching you want to contact me, my name still remains Solomon Kish Towner, 080-340-40467. Let me take it again. 080-340-40467. Stay home, stay safe. keep learning till we meet to continue the other segment of the lesson. Thank you.